In this video, I am going to be talking you through how to launch your products in the US. And so many companies and people that I speak to think that they need to set up a US entity, register an LLC in the US, or have a company in general, some kind of entity. In fact, you don't. And in fact, I would recommend against it because it actually opens up a whole realm of admin nightmare that you don't need to have on your plate, especially when you're going to start slow, test the market, and grow organically. My recommendation would be to remain selling as an international seller, but to have stock on the ground in the US, in a US warehouse. Dispatching the US orders from a US address makes a huge difference. It cuts out the friction of the border, delays, import duties, taxes, and customers generally having a really bad experience with their delivery. So if you have a trickle of US sales and you think that you're getting a lot of abandoned carts, and having stock on the ground in the US is going to help improve your conversions and generally increase sales, then you already have a market to start growing. So my recommendation as remaining as an international seller is to just apply for what is called an EIN number. That is a US tax number. Once you have that US tax number, you can then have stock on the ground in a US warehouse and dispatch all of your US orders from the US warehouse. And it makes it so much better for your customer. It's a cheaper shipping cost. And as I said, it removes all of the friction of border control, delays, import duties and taxes and things like that. To remain as an international seller, all you need is this EIN number, the US tax number, which is the equivalent of a VAT number in the UK. To apply for your EIN number, you will need to fill in a form, which I can link here on this video. There are about 30 odd questions on the form. You only need to fill in 7 or 8 of them. And again, I can give you pointers on exactly how to answer all of those questions too. Once you've completed that form, you'll need to call the tax office. With calling them, their wait times can be quite long. So if you can, they open their lines at 6 a.m. local time. If you can get in, bang on the button of that, which is 2 p.m. UK time currently, call at 2 p.m. on the button and you'll get through to an operator much, much quicker. Once they answer the call to you, you will then be taken through a host of questions of which you've already answered on your form. So you can just read back the answers without fumbling over your words and getting confused over the questions. So you just read back the answers, making the call nice and quick. After that, they will verbally give you your EIN number, and that's it. So you just have a pen and paper handy and you'll write the number down. That is all you need to have to start selling legally in the US, dispatching from a US address. So you've got your EIN number. They will also post you a certificate of your EIN number too, but you don't need that to start trading. All you need is the version that you've written down. You don't need a certificate. So after the whole process has happened, they will then take you through a really lovely, pleasant, threatening speech about paying your taxes, ensuring that you're legal and compliant and everything like that. I'll be covering that on a different video, but please know it is extremely straightforward and simple and quick and free. So you don't need to worry about your tax returns either. Then they will ask you to fax over the form with your completed form, fax that over to them. I don't know anyone that has a fax machine anymore, so I can recommend a free faxer, online fax service. Again, I will link it below in the video. Simply sign up for the 7-day free trial, scan your form onto the online fax portal. They will send it through to the tax office to receive, and then just remember to cancel that subscription before the 7-day trial kicks in, before the 7-day trial expires and your paid subscription kicks in, so that you haven't spent any money on that. Then once you've sent your fax over, everything will be completed there and you don't need to do anything else. You've already got your EIN number that they verbally gave you on the phone, so that's all done. Another tip, apart from the free fax line service and calling them at 2 p.m. UK time sharp, just so that there are no delays of being put into a queue and things like that. My other tip is, if you don't have free calls to the US, try and find someone that does. The call, if you do get put on hold, the call can get really expensive. So if you can find someone with free calls, if you don't know anyone, try and call your mobile phone provider and ask for a 7-day or a 14-day bolt-on of US calls, just so you're not paying the £2 per minute charge. Because sometimes if you do get put on hold, they can put you on hold for 45 minutes. And we've had clients who have unexpectedly got a £200 bill for a phone call that should have been free of charge. So if you can find someone with free US calls, if not, just phone your phone provider and ask for a bolt-on for 7 or 14 days for the US calls. And that's it. I can't tell you how many people come to me and say, I've spoken to this person, they said this, that, and the whole thing is so overcomplicated and painful, when really, in reality, it's actually free of charge and takes less than 1 hour to complete. The hardest bit, in my opinion, is actually getting the stock over to the US because it's expensive and long. But that's it. Once you've got your US EIN number, you've got your stock on the ground, you can start selling.